My first mistake was not putting two and two together the first time that I saw her. I knew that she had looked familiar, but I just chalked it up to her having one of those faces. You know, those people who have features that remind you of an old schoolmate or a neighbor or childhood friend or something like that. It was a Thursday, it was raining outside, but I needed to go to the grocery store to pick up some milk for my youngest daughter's cereal. Well, I say it was for her, but between you and me, I'd like to sneak a bowl of her Lucky Charms in the middle of the night when she's sleeping. Anyways, my oldest daughter was 13, so I left her in charge to watch her sister, who was only 9 at the time. After arriving at the local food mart, I pulled into the parking lot, put the gear in park, and turned the engine off. When I just so happened to look up, and through the windshield, in the parked car in front of me, it being face to face with my car, it looked like the driver was just sitting there, staring at me. I couldn't tell for sure. The heavy rain was obscuring my vision, and it all looked so wet and blurry that I couldn't really say for certain that they were staring at me, but they were definitely just sitting there, not unbuckling their seatbelt or even messing around with their phone. I paid it no mind and got out of the car, popped open my umbrella, and quickly walked towards the entrance to the store. I could hear the door slam behind me, but once again I paid it no mind as I tried to get out of the rain and inside. While inside, I made my way to the dairy aisle and grabbed a couple gallons of milk. I turned around to head to the checkout when I saw her there. My initial thought was that she looked like someone I used to know, but nobody in particular. Like I said before, she had one of those faces. She was extremely tall, with raven black hair that was pulled into a bun. Her skin was pale, and she had very defined facial features. She also wore a tight pair of blue jeans with a black leather jacket. She was standing beside me, focusing on the milk as well. I thought she may have quickly side-eyed me before I walked away, but again, I didn't really mind, or at least didn't think to. As I made my way to the checkout, I kept trying to figure out where I knew her from, but I couldn't come up with anything. So I purchased the milk and made my way out to the car and headed home. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I just so happened to glance up at the entrance of the store. There she was again. Just standing there, with no milk in hand. Later that night, I tucked my girls into bed and made my way into my own. I laid there, thinking about that woman, staring at the ceiling until I dozed off. After drifting off into dreamland, I was suddenly startled awake. A loud crashing sound of shattering glass caused my heart to spring me up from bed. I rushed out of my bedroom and into the girls' room. As I rushed inside, I saw the woman from the grocery store. She was standing in front of the large window, which was now shattered, causing the heavy rain and cold wind to blow throughout. "You!" she hissed. Her voice was raspy and full of venom and hate. "I finally found you, you bastard!" Aside from the barrage of emotions, including fear and anger, I was now hit with confusion. Who the hell are you?" I yelled over the loud sounds of the raging elements. "What the hell do you want?" The scowl on her face deepened, and her eyes, which were already filled with contempt, began to glow red. And I mean literally glow red, like a monster from an old horror movie. I took a step back, trying to understand what I was seeing in front of me. "You know who I am," she yelled. "And you know what I want." Suddenly, she stretched her arm out towards me, and I could feel an invisible force pull my entire body towards her. My feet dragged across the floor as I was pulled like a paperclip to a magnet with her hand. When I finally reached her, I felt her long fingernails dig into my neck as she gripped it. I tried to scream in pain, but all that would come out was a strained grasp. Slowly, she put her lips to my ear and whispered, "You took took something from me, so now I'm taking something from you." I had no idea what she meant about taking something from her, but I knew damn well what she meant by taking something from me. I struggled and fought to be free, but she effortlessly lunged me forward, sending me flying through the bedroom and into the bathroom, which I was directly on the opposite side of the hallway. My body hit the medicine cabinet and I could feel the glass crunching and shatter from the force of the impact. It felt like my spine was completely crushed. But even so, I crawled my way back to the girls' room as fast as I could. But it was too late. By the time I made it there, the woman was gone. And so were my girls. "No!" I tried to scream, tears pouring down my cheeks and blood coming up from my throat. I laid there in the rainwater, tears and blood, and eventually I passed out. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. My neck was bandaged so I couldn't speak all that well due to the trauma from the nails of the woman digging into me. I gave the police my report about what happened as best as I could. Of course, I left out the part where her eyes glowed red and she used telekinesis on me. I just told them that a woman broke into our home, assaulted me, and kidnapped my daughters, and gave them her description. For months, there was an ongoing investigation as the authorities tried their best to find my daughters. They could only find a couple of women that fit the description, but I was able to clear them confidently whenever they brought them into a lineup. As time went forward, I began to fall into a depression. One day I received a call from my brother who knew I was going through the worst time of my life. He offered to come down from his home in Toronto and stay with me for a little while. Part of me felt bad for dragging him away from his life up there to look after me and my misery all the way down in the armpit of Ohio. But at the same time, I could really use the company. The night that he arrived, I told him in detail the whole story of what happened. The whole story. I was pretty sure he wouldn't believe me at first, and I figured I'd have to go out of my way to convince him. But that's not what happened. When I was finished, he sat there, frozen, like he'd just seen a ghost. "Danny?" I said to him. "What's up?" He shifted his eyes to look at me, tears beginning to form. "Danny? I'm so sorry." He choked out, after taking a long, deep breath and pouring himself a glass of whiskey. He told me everything. Now, Danny was not just my brother. He was my twin brother. In fact, he was my identical twin brother. Years ago, we were in a group of friends to hang out for Danny's last week in Ohio, before he left for Toronto to attend college. We were drinking and having a good time. Danny was completely wasted, as was I. My girlfriend at the time, who was my designated driver, drove me home, but Danny wanted to stay longer. What I thought happened was that Danny stayed the night at a friend's house, but he told me what really happened that night. After my girlfriend and I left, Danny and the others continued to party. At some point, they had the bright idea to go joyriding. Already before he continued to tell his story, I looked at my brother in disgust for such stupid behavior. I chose not to interrupt, but I could tell that he could read the look of disappointment on my face as he continued. It was about 3 a.m. or so when he was behind the wheel. He said that the road had been empty for miles until he ran a stop sign and smacked into the side of another car, trying to turn on the road. The other car flipped from the impact and landed on its roof. Danny then got out to check his car and saw a woman trying to crawl her way out of the shattered driver's side window. He was about to help her when he saw her looking up at him, her face bloodied from the glass and her eyes full of pain and hatred, glowing a bright red. The shards surrounding her began to slowly rise from the ground. He started to freak out, ran back to his car and took off, leaving her. The next day, he thought he saw what he saw due to being drunk and just left it at that. At some point, though, he'd already committed a drunk driving hit and run. So, he and his friends just kept it to themselves at that on. It was only a few days later when he left for Toronto, never faced any consequences for his actions. At some point, it finally clicked to me why the woman took the girls. Looked so familiar to me. I had seen on the news the following day that a woman had been involved in a hit-and-run accident that claimed the lives of her 2 daughters. I remember feeling so bad for her and hoped that the person responsible would be caught and made to pay. All these years later, that person was sitting in front of me, drunk again, and spilling his guts to me. This woman, witch, or whatever she may be, was a mother whose children were taken from her by my own brother. She saw me that day and, not knowing any better, thought she recognized him. My girls, my innocent, sweet little girls, were snatched from our home in the middle of the night and could be dead now for all I know. Because of him. Feeling rage and anger building up inside me, I grabbed the whiskey bottle and smashed it over Danny's head. He fell to the floor, blood and alcohol spilling everywhere as he held up his hands in defense and pleaded with me to stop. I swung my fist down across his head, knocking him unconscious. To this day, I never saw that woman or my girls ever again. I keep hoping that one of these days I'll happen to come across her again so that I can explain the misunderstanding, so I can plead for her to give my daughters back, to offer a trade. Please, whoever you are, give me back my daughters. I'm not the one responsible for what happened, but I know where he is. I can tell you the prison he's being held at. The only reason I didn't kill him is the off chance that you've come across this message and you have not harmed my girls. Please, I'm begging you, parent to parent, give them back to me. Give them back to me.